Today, I'm going to be talking about what many wives mistake for emotional strength. Welcome back to Relationship Reality. If you're new here, my name is David, and on this channel we talk about the relationship truths people feel, but rarely know how to explain. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and stay with me until the very end because today's conversation may completely change the way you understand your husband, your marriage, and even yourself. I also want you to be part of today's discussion. Wives, I want you to answer this question honestly in the comments. Have you ever thought your husband was emotionally strong, only to later realize he was emotionally exhausted? Men, I want you to answer this. Have you ever stayed quiet because people thought your silence meant you were okay? I read every comment, and your story may become the reason another marriage finds hope before it's too late. Now let me say something important before we begin. This conversation is not about blaming wives. It is not about pretending husbands are perfect. Good men fail. Good women fail. Every marriage contains two imperfect people trying to build one life together. But there is one misunderstanding that quietly destroys many marriages. Many wives mistake emotional suppression for emotional strength, and the cost is often far greater than either person realizes. I've been married long enough to learn that the strongest man in the room is not always the quietest man. Sometimes, he is simply the loneliest. There is a sentence I have heard many wives say over the years. My husband never complains. They say it with pride. He just gets on with it. He never talks about his problems. He's so strong. Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe he learned that nobody wanted to hear his problems. Maybe he learned that every time he spoke honestly, someone minimized what he was carrying. Maybe he learned that his role was to solve everyone else's problems while silently carrying his own. That isn't always strength. Sometimes that's survival. Sometimes that's loneliness. Sometimes that's a man slowly disappearing behind a smile. One of the biggest mistakes many wives make is believing that if a man isn't talking about his pain, he isn't in pain. Nothing could be further from the truth. Many men don't process pain by talking. They process it by carrying it, until one day they can't carry it anymore. The strongest-looking bridge often collapses without warning, not because it suddenly became weak, because it was overloaded for years. Men work the same way. They keep carrying financial pressure, family pressure, career pressure, health concerns, fear of failure, fear of disappointing everyone they love, fear of not being enough. Most of it stays hidden, not because it doesn't exist, because they've convinced themselves nobody needs another burden. So they become quiet, responsible, reliable, predictable. And everyone mistakes that quietness for emotional strength. Comment below. Have you ever known someone who looked perfectly fine on the outside but was falling apart inside? Another thing wives often mistake for emotional strength is emotional control. A husband stays calm during an argument. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't slam doors. He doesn't insult anyone. Many wives think he isn't affected. No. Sometimes he's affected more than anyone realizes. He simply doesn't know how to express it without making things worse. There are men who have mastered controlling their reactions, but never learned how to express their emotions. Those are two very different skills. A man who stays calm isn't necessarily at peace. He may simply be holding everything inside, and eventually, everything inside demands somewhere to go. Some men bury themselves in work. Some disappear into hobbies. Some spend hours in the garage. Some drive for no reason. Some scroll endlessly on their phones. Some withdraw emotionally, not because they stopped loving their wives, because they're trying to find one place where nobody needs anything from them. That isn't emotional strength. That's emotional fatigue. One of the saddest things I've witnessed is watching a husband become everyone's rock while having nobody to lean on himself. Everybody depends on him. Very few ask how he's doing. And when someone finally does, he often says, "I'm fine." Not because he is, because he no longer knows how to answer honestly. After years of hiding pain, even he forgets what he's feeling. Wives, ask yourself something. When was the last time you asked your husband, "How are you really doing?" Not while cooking dinner, not while checking your phone, not while rushing somewhere. Just sat beside him, looked him in the eyes, and waited long enough for the real answer. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give a man isn't advice. It's permission. Permission to stop pretending. Permission to be tired. Permission to be afraid. Permission to admit he doesn't have everything under control. Because many men have spent their entire lives believing that weakness makes them less valuable. And that's a lonely way to live. Another mistake many wives make is confusing emotional independence with emotional health. A husband handles everything himself, never asks for help, never shares burdens, never cries, never complains. Many people admire that. But healthy people know something different. Healthy people know strength isn't refusing help. Strength is knowing when to ask for it. No marriage should consist of one person carrying the entire emotional weight while the other assumes everything is fine. Marriage was never designed to be two strangers carrying private battles. It was designed to be two people carrying life together. The strongest marriages I've ever seen weren't built by people who never struggled. They were built by people who let each other see the struggle. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's trust. And trust is impossible without vulnerability. There is another misunderstanding that quietly hurts many marriages. Many wives mistake consistency for invincibility. Your husband keeps showing up, pays the bills, fixes the house, attends family events, provides, protects, laughs with the children. Everything looks normal. So you assume everything inside him is normal too. But functioning and flourishing are not the same thing. A man can continue functioning long after he's stopped flourishing. He can keep performing his responsibilities while emotionally fading away. Don't assume that because he's still showing up, he's still okay. Sometimes responsibility keeps people moving long after joy has disappeared. Let me tell you something else I've learned. Many good men don't leave marriages because they stopped loving their wives. They leave because they became invisible inside them. Nobody noticed they were drowning because they never made much noise. Imagine someone slowly sinking beneath calm water. No splashing, no screaming, no dramatic scene. Just slowly disappearing beneath the surface. That's how emotional burnout often looks in men. Quiet, gradual, invisible. Until one day everyone says, "I never saw it coming." The signs were there. They just weren't dramatic enough. One of those signs is silence. Not peaceful silence, hopeless silence. The silence of someone who no longer believes explaining will change anything. The silence of someone who has repeated the same concern for years. Eventually, people stop repeating themselves. Not because the concern disappeared, because hope did. Another sign is emotional distance. He laughs less, shares less, dreams less, touches less, initiates less. Not because he stopped caring, because caring became exhausting. Comment honestly. Have you ever mistaken someone's silence for strength? Or later realized it was actually pain? Another thing many wives misunderstand is a husband's desire for peace. Some wives believe peace means laziness, avoidance, passivity. It doesn't. For many men, peace is how they recover. A man spends all day making decisions, solving problems, managing expectations, facing pressure. Coming home should feel like taking heavy armor off, not putting on another layer. Peace doesn't mean nobody ever disagrees. Peace means disagreements don't become emotional warfare. Peace means respect survives conflict. Peace means home remains a place of restoration. When peace disappears, even love begins struggling to breathe. Now, let me speak directly to the wives watching. If your husband still shares his fears, listen carefully. If he still tells you what bothers him, don't dismiss it. If he still brings concerns to you, understand something important. He's trusting you with parts of himself that many men never show anyone. Protect that trust. Because once a man concludes that honesty leads nowhere, he often returns to silence. And silence is much harder to repair than conflict. To the husbands watching, strength does not mean carrying everything alone. Your wife cannot understand burdens you've hidden from her. She cannot comfort pain you've never admitted exists. Find the courage to speak. Not perfectly, not dramatically, honestly. The strongest men I know are not those who never struggle. They're the ones brave enough to let trusted people walk beside them. I've spent decades watching marriages rise and fall, and I've noticed something. The happiest marriages aren't built around perfect communication. They're built around emotional safety, a place where both husband and wife know they can tell the truth without being punished for it. Imagine how different marriages would become if every husband believed, "I don't have to pretend here," and every wife believed, "I don't have to defend myself every time he tells me how he feels." That kind of marriage becomes a refuge, not a battlefield. And that's what home should be. If you're still watching, stay with me, because this may be the most important thing I'll say today. Real emotional strength isn't hiding pain. It's facing it. Real emotional strength isn't pretending everything is fine. It's having the courage to admit when it isn't. Real emotional strength isn't carrying every burden alone. It's allowing someone who loves you to help carry it. And wives, sometimes the strongest thing your husband will ever do is trust you enough to show you the parts of himself the rest of the world never sees. Don't mistake those moments for weakness. Honor them. Protect them. Because those moments build marriages that last. Let me leave you with this. Real strength isn't measured by how much pain you can hide. It's measured by how much truth you can carry without losing your kindness, your integrity, or your humanity. Never be ashamed of needing rest. Never be ashamed of needing support. And never confuse silence with healing. Healing happens when truth finally has a safe place to live. Before I go, I'd like to hear from you. Men, have you ever been praised for being strong when you were actually struggling? Wives, have you ever realized too late that your husband's silence wasn't strength, it was exhaustion? Tell me your story in the comments. Read through the comments too. Someone else's experience may help you understand your own marriage in a way you never expected. And if this conversation spoke to you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Relationship Reality, and turn on notifications, because every week we have honest conversations about marriage, emotional connection, masculinity, femininity, healing, and the relationship truths most people are too afraid to discuss. I'm David, and after 40 years of watching marriages succeed and fail, I've learned one truth that never changes. The strongest man isn't the one who never breaks. The strongest man is the one who finds a place where he no longer has to pretend he never does.